Let's get into it. Today, we're going to be working on a 2003 Subaru Outback Legacy. It's my sister's. This thing has been an interesting vehicle. It's fun, but got it with a blown up engine, rebuilt the engine, put the engine back in, got it running, drove it from Virginia all the way to Colorado, and then had the power steering rack go out. Or no, it was the power steering pump went out first. So replaced the power steering pump, then drove it for another, I don't know, year or so. And then the power steering pump or rack gave out. Replaced the power steering rack, but my son was driving it when the rack went out, which ran it dry, caused the pump to go back out. Had my son put a pump in it, and lo and behold, it was bad from the factory. The front seal, right here behind this, let me turn around so I can see what I'm doing. This is the power steering pump, and right behind the serpentine belt, there's a seal, and that just sprayed transmission fluid all over the place. I say transmission fluid because Subarus use transmission fluid for their power steering instead of power steering fluid. A lot of vehicles do that, Toyotas, Subarus. So today, I'm gonna try and get you set up to where we can get this thing replaced and get this thing back on the road for my sister. Let's see if we can do this without taking off the radiator hose. Oh, it's way under there. We'll clean the power steering fluid off of that later. Feel like this jacket's just getting in the way. Not sponsored by Red Bull, but if Red Bull's watching, I'll take a sponsorship. All right, so first thing I did was take off the air cleaner. Second thing, loosen the alternator bolts here, and then run this down, and that loosens up the alternator to where you can drop it down, loosens the belt, takes the belt off. This is your power steering fluid or transmission fluid, that feed line that goes to the pump. This is your high pressure line that goes down to the rack. We're gonna take this off. Take the 2 bolts that secure the high pressure line to the intake manifold so that we can move it out of the way. And in case you're wondering, yes, this engine is purple and black. When I built this engine several years ago, that was the color my sister wanted, so that was the color she got. So I'm going to use a universal and a 12mm to get down to this back bolt. I don't know if you can see it back behind the engine, or back behind the pump. I don't know if you can see down there. It's way down in there. There's 3 bolts that hold the power steering bracket on. There's 1 behind it and 2 underneath, and then we do have to take the alternator off. So we will you put your tools back while you're using them. You never lose them. Unfortunately, I'm horrible at it, just like everyone else. Alternator bolt is off. If you don't have one of those magnetic bolt trays, I suggest you get one. They're actually not that expensive. You can pick them up from Harbor Freight or a lot of other places. Let's see, lightings. I'm working out in the old barn, so haven't got the lighting the greatest yet. Can't see them, and I don't know what would be the best camera to show these things. And of course, so I don't know if you can see down in there, but there's 2 bolts, 1 there and 1 there, and that is the supply, or the 2 bolts that hold the bracket on, and then 1 way down there. I already took that one off, just need to take the 2 that are down there off. And I think that's going to be easier to get to with a ratchet. And yes, these are loose. When my son put it on and it immediately started spraying, he started to take it back off, and I told him don't worry about it, because we needed to be able to just pull it in and out of the barn, because we've got other projects. If you take a look around the barn, everything in here is a project that's just waiting to happen. And of course, like any car, the more stuff you take off, the more space you have. But trying to find the right angle to get to it can be a little bit difficult. And that should have been the last bolt holding this in. And that's it. Now we just got to take off that bolt and that bolt. And I think my son already took that bolt out for some reason. And that's it. We do have to take that off, but I will hold off on that till we get the other one out. Now, the pump that I've been using comes from a non-sponsored online parts store. Great prices, great service. Well, I say great service, great shipping. Usually gets here fairly quick. So a little bit more on the difficult side than your, auto parts store down the way, because obviously an auto parts store down the street, you can go and just return it when something's bad. This one I had to order a new pump, and then I'm gonna have to send the defective one back. That's just the way they like doing things. Getting a hold of customer service from them can be a little difficult, but if you don't mind the quick shipping, and with how far away from everything I live, getting stuff shipped directly to the house is a bonus, which is why I use them. And all right, so a good trick and rule of thumb is to leave everything loose until you get all of the bolts in and started. Once you have all the bolts in and at least started, then you can go and finish tightening things off. Makes getting the bolts, if the holes don't line up just perfectly, a little bit easier. And on these, where the bolt holes have a lot of slop, it is just easier to get all of them in. And then once all of them are in, then tighten them up. So we need to take this one off, and put the power steering sensor in here. Now this should have an O-ring on it. This being a new O-ring, we're going to reuse it because it's still good. On a lot of these aluminum housings, you got to be really careful not to damage or tighten them up too much, because you actually can crack the housing. Now this just has an O-ring that is sealing it in there, and it can be a little bit difficult to get it to want to come out. You just gotta gently pry on it. And yes, in case you're wondering, Can-Ams make the best workbenches. They also make really fun toys, but with snow on the ground, we have a tendency of using the snowmobiles more than the Can-Am. And again, these were new O-rings. We're gonna take this and clean it up a little bit. It doesn't need to be this dirty. So we'll use a little bit of this to lubricate it. And there we go. Let's clean up some of this before we put this back on. All right. Now putting it back together is the exact same thing, just in reverse. Find that it's easier. Let's put this one in first, and it helps line up all of the others. You gotta watch this one because it's real easy to cross thread. Of course, like everything, can't see what you're doing. We're just going to run this down just a little bit, not tighten it up. And then we've got I'm gonna run this one down as far as I can with my finger before I try and get the ratchet underneath there. Same with this one. And always tighten up these bottom two bolts first. They're the ones that suck it up against the block and align the belt to the engine. And again, this is an aluminum block, so you want to torque them down to a couple ugga-duggas, but not enough to strip the threads out. Then after you get the bottom two tight, come up here and get the top one tight. Put the alternator back in. size this was. Sensor. If there's ever ground straps or anything that were hooked up before, always make sure you get them put back in. Those ground straps can make or break the entire job. All right. We still have plenty of power steering fluid, so I'm gonna put the belt back on. Oh, what did I grab? I grabbed an 11, not a 12. And this one has a nut on the back, and the anti-rotation on it has come loose or broken off. And it is not a 12, it's a 13. All right. The only thing we have left is the intake, and I'm gonna hold off on that until I start it up. I wanna make sure that the pump works, it's not leaking anything, and then I'll go through, double check everything, make sure it's all tightened up, make sure we got everything, and then we'll put everything back together. Alright, turn the wheel lock to lock a couple of times. I'm just realizing I don't think they primed this. There it goes. Check for leaks. Everything's dry. Our fluid, we're gonna have to add a little bit. This is next on the project list. It's getting a 4-liter 5-speed swap, along with a lot of other stuff. All right, what do I do with that rag? All right, everything's tight, belt's not squeaking. So I don't know if this engine had the belt cover on it. If it did, I don't know where my son put it. And as you can see, when it comes to Subaru parts, not exactly lacking. I'm gonna leave that off. All right, and that is it. The only thing left now to do is a little bit of cleanup. And we will take it for a test drive. So that's it. Power steering pump on a 2003 Subaru Outback Legacy. It's the same on a lot of these different Subarus. It's got the 2.5. The power steering pump bolts with these two bolts and the one in the back, and the whole thing comes off and you can just replace it. Not too difficult at all. Able to get it in and out fairly quickly. All said and done, 20 to 30 minutes if you know what you're doing, an hour if you don't. All right. If you like that video, don't forget to like and subscribe. We've got a lot more coming down the rails. We've got a 88 Comanche that we're gonna be building for several different things, but it's gonna be a beast when we're done with it. Of course, you see the Trackie. It's a 97 Honda Active that we put tracks on. We've got an 05 Impreza, 91 GMC. What we don't have here is a 91 Suzuki Samurai that we're going to be building. We've got Yugos. We got a lot coming down the line. So if you like what you see, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.